So I went from 0 to 90 miles an hour in the dance photography thing.
Right.
Like some of my first actual dance photographs are of Alvin Ailey dancers.
Wonderful.
So again, opportunity meets the moment, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
and then when I came to Toronto, I met Kevin Ormsby in 2006 when he was returning from Garth Fagan. And he was just rejoining up with Ballet Creole.
Right.
And he invited me to start photographing Ballet Creole.
Right.
So I think the first thing I photographed for them was Soulful Messiah.
Okay.
And I think I've shot it 10 times since then. So, yeah.
Right. And in your work in photography, not only have you had the opportunity to work with these wonderful artists, Kevin Ormsby, Dance Immersion, and more,
Koba, you name it.
Right.
The who's who.
But you have also had the chance to be a part of putting together a photography book.
Yeah.
Correct? Yes. Dance Through is the name of that.
Dance Through Life, actually.
Dance Through Life, right.
Yeah.
So your work there, can you tell us a little bit about the work that was involved in putting that book of photography
actually, Kevin and I, we had a lot of synergistic ideas, I think, early on when we first met. And I think we both came to the conclusion that everybody dances every day. You don't have to be a dancer to dance.
Right.
Dancing through life is what we do. You know, we if we need to run, we need to run. If we need to tiptoe, we tiptoe. You know, it's like we change our patterns of movement all the time. And so what we did was I wanted to take the dance photography out of the theater setting and put it into the Toronto as background setting.
Right.
And so we came up with this, and it took us maybe 2.5 years to do enough photo shoots to culminate enough for a book, and then we published it together.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's done really well. So
wonderful. Well, yes, you know, there are many artists across the city who have been pictured and featured in this particular book.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful work. And, you know, let me ask you something, Christopher. As a photographer, and capturing all of these different times and periods in individuals' lives, which I would imagine is one of the great things about the work that you do. But what would you say stands out for you as a photographer? What makes your day as a photographer?
Well, as a photographer in general, what makes my day is it's a couple of things. Part of my job is documenting and creating and documenting a history. And as you know, some histories are told and some histories are not told.
Right.
And so I tend towards the histories that are not told. And I think there is a big opportunity there in the dance arena. I also probably in my heart of hearts wanted to be a dancer at one time.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, you know, gravity is completely against my body type. So it's probably not really going to happen in the way that I want it to.
Right.
You know, I
they
don't
say
think
everyone dances. Right?
I know, but you know what? I can't leap like Kevin Ormsby. So, you know, and I really, really want to.
Right.
So photographing it is almost like being there, you know. One of the most important things about photographing dance is learning that dance is a language.
Right.
That you have to learn that language. You have to learn the syntaxes. You have to learn when certain things are going to happen. Every major dance move has a setup.
Right.
And when someone goes into that setup, you know that they're about to leap into the air, and that's where you want to capture that one great, fantastic, awe-inspiring leap, you know, and you have to know that it's coming.
Of course.
You know, and I have to credit Kevin Ormsby for helping me with that. He used to sit with me in the audience during tech rehearsals, and he'd have his hand on my knee,
right.
and he would tap when things were coming, so that I would learn that language.
Right, of
you
course.
know, and you know, so now he doesn't have to tap my knee anymore. I think we've gone past that, but it was really
Right.
great that he did that, right?
Right. Having individuals, in the field who can either tutor you through or be a
Right.
part of that process definitely helps to build you as an individual in
Yeah.
your prospective career,
Yeah,
right?
there are so few dance photographers out there, good ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Well, if you are just tuning in, my guest today is Christopher Cushman. My name is Nicole Hamilton, host of Career Buzz here on CIUT 89.5 FM in Toronto and worldwide at CIUT.FM. Christopher, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what would you say are the skills that are necessary for someone to be a strong photographer? You mentioned, how Kevin used to, tap you on your knees so that you would know, okay,
Yeah, learn the
timing.
language. Yeah, so
Right.
learn the timing, learn the
Right.
language. It's really funny. Cameras have gotten so good lately that they allow the average person to be able to occasionally take really great photographs. And what I tried to tell people is that that's great and all, but it doesn't make you a great photographer.
Right.
And so a great photographer has to learn composition. Never shooting something symmetrically. You always want to shoot something asymmetrically, because symmetrical design is boring. Asymmetrical design causes tension and interest. So the rule of thirds, for people are probably rolling their eyes now, but so you need to learn composition. You need to learn the subject matter. If I'm shooting a portrait, I can't just walk in, never having met you, and take a portrait and expect that portrait to be good.
Right.
I need to know you. I'm trying to capture you as a person. And so it takes a lot of research, to do good photography. It also takes a lot of patience. If you're going to take pictures of nature, you just don't walk out into a field with a mountainscape and take the picture. You go there and you spend the day and you find out when is the best light that's going to hit that particular scene to show this particular vista of nature in its best,
Right.
in all its glory. And it's not when you want it, it's when nature wants it, right? So there's a lot of subtle little things that you have to learn along the way that go beyond the learning what an f-stop is and ISO and all of the
these
settings on the camera, right?
technical-
All the technical bits, right?
Right. Well, what would you say has been the most challenging part of being a photographer?
For me, the most challenging part of being a photographer is actually shooting dance in a theater.
In a black box theater or
In
theater in general?
in a black, just in a dark theater. Dance presentations are generally shot with so little light sometimes that your camera is just really suffering.
Right.
And of course, people are moving very, very quickly in this little amount of light. So you have to set your camera up. You have to have the right lenses. I probably spent the first 5 years trying to match the right camera, the right lens, the right, I had all the rest. I had the composition. I had all the capturing the right moment bit, but having the right equipment in that particular scenario was really super challenging. And I have to thank David Ho, who was a extremely famous dance photographer here in Toronto, who was also photographing Ballet Creole one day, and he saw my camera and he didn't shake his head and wonder why I was trying to do something with a tool that wasn't quite right. And he
Right.
was like, "Look, this is what you need to do. This is, I love artists that give, even though you're sitting there and on some way maybe competing with them. I definitely wasn't competing with him that day, but he gave in that moment. And I try to do that as well, right? I try to help other photographers. I don't try to hold back on knowledge, because making good photographs is also helping others make good photographs.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you've been speaking, one of the things I've been noticing is that you've been crediting these wonderful individuals who have assisted in your career process. Would you say that it's really important for an individual, not just, of course, in your field, but really in any field, to have somebody who is that mentor, that guide, that efficient tutor? Would you say that is, I mean, I know it's probably an obvious answer, right?
Yeah.
But would you say that it's a significant?
It's everything.
Right.
It's everything. I do a lot of work for Dance Immersion, and I do take pictures of their presentations, but I also do all of their graphic design, all of their posters. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. And I have to say that, working with them, I've even, listening to Vivienne Scarlett describe what theme she and what kind of emotion she wants out of a design that's going to be featured in that show has been another immense help to me, right? It's like you don't know what people are trying to get at when they're putting a presentation together without, them giving you that visceral sort of feedback, and that's been very helpful as well.
Wonderful.
They're wonderful to work with.
And as a photographer right now, what type of work are you currently doing in the field?
Well, mostly still, I would say mostly dance. I've pulled away from. I do a lot of portraiture. I've pulled away from doing. I'm back in school again. I'm upping my degree in design and in graphic design.
Yes.
So even at my advanced age of 55, it's never too late to go back to school.
55.
I know. Yeah, it's just.
It's interesting because, as you mentioned the going back to school, part, I think it's again safe to add that, as a photographer, continuing your education is probably
critical,
necessary, right, and critical for you to stay current. Right, because you mentioned portraiture and all of these wonderful terms when it comes to photography that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
But I would imagine in order for you to stay current and marketable, that it's absolutely necessary for you to be continuing your education.
Well, the darkroom has moved into the computer.
Ah, right.
There are people that still shoot with film, and that's great. I love film. Film has a quality that digital does not have. However, if you are shooting digital, you need to learn the tools, and people need to realize that when someone comes up and shoots a job and is using a digital camera, the pictures that come out of that camera are not ready right out of the camera.
Right.
They have to be processed. They have to be worked over. They have to be manipulated into that final super awesome image.
Right.
So keeping current on all things. I always say all things Adobe, because they seem to own the market in a lot of ways. That's very, very, very crucial.
Okay.
And being kind of aware of those things has kind of given me a leg up in school. But I'm still learning new stuff every day, and it's the most amazing experience ever.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And we're almost out of time. We'll be going to a musical break shortly in just a few moments. But one of the things that I did want to ask you, Christopher, is what types of jobs can an individual hold as a photographer?
Anything from being a journalist to an art photographer. There's commercial photographers that shoot fashion. And all of those fields are still extremely wide open for people who are super talented. But, I think to make a full-time living as a photographer, you probably need to do 2 or 3 different kinds of photography. Right?
Okay.
So, my thing is dance, but I also like to do reportage, which is more journalistic or documentary. And I like doing portraits. And I like doing images that are Photoshop manipulated more into art pieces than they are into actual photos because, they're not real, and, the things that you can do are just amazing. So you have to have a wide cross section in photography today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And what type of camera do you normally use?
Right now I'm using a Canon 7D, which is great. It also shoots video as well, which I'm sort of getting into. And it's a good overall camera. It's pretty heavy duty. It's one of the last of the full size DSLRs. So.
And the DSLR stands for
digital single lens reflex.
Ah, okay. All right. Wow, it's wordy. It's wordy. All right. And so for individuals who would like to find out more about who you are and what you do, where can people find you online?
Well, they can go to my website, which is www.epiphanynoir, EPIPHANY, one word, Linkley, I know, .com. And if you put a / and write dance, it takes you right to my dance stuff.
Okay, wonderful. And your profile.
My profile is on there as well. And I also would like to say, if it's okay to do it at this time, that Dance Immersion has a showcase coming up at the end of the month.
Yes.
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 So that's on the 26th and the 27th. And it is at the Harborfront Theater, which used to be the N-Wave.
Right.
It's right in front of the power plant, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
And will you be covering that event too, doing some
absolutely.
photography there?
I'll be shooting the text on it, so I'll be posting, pictures on the Dance Immersion site that very evening, so that people can kind of see that, and hopefully people can come out and see the show. There's a show on that Friday and on Saturday, and it's really amazing. It's called Footsteps Across Canada, and it's covering the diaspora of people within Canada from all over the world. So it's like people from South Africa, from Haiti. It's really great. It's going to be a great event.
And there are some local artists as well that are going to be showcased in that particular event as well.
Absolutely.
Right. I know Essie Mensa is going to be part of that event as well.
Correct.
Yes. And for individuals who are wishing to find out more about that particular event for Dance Immersion, I know that they can be found at 416-203-0666 or at danceimmersion.ca. So, and they will find you there covering that event.
That's right. That's right.
Wonderful.
And they're on Facebook as well.
They are. That's right. And what type of advice, Christopher, would you give to an individual? What last piece of advice would you leave for somebody who wishes to enter into the field of photography?
Just do it.
Be like Nike and just do it.
Just be like Nike, just do it. Don't think that you can't do something. Anything that you think you can do, you can do. And, they say it takes 10,000 hours to become that, that professional.
Right.
It does. And it's okay because it's the funnest 10,000 hours you will ever have.
Right.
It's easy work. It's fun work. It's still challenging work. And it's rewarding work. So, there really isn't a better thing than to lug a camera around and, tell a story.
Wonderful. Well, it was so nice having you here in studio. Thank you so much for joining us today, Christopher. And we're going to be taking a musical break.